What's going on, guys? It's RussellMuscleTV here again, back again with another Survivor Retrospective video. We're taking a little break from our video kind of series and switching back over to the podcast. We're gonna have a guest here today. You've seen him before. He's Skylander Gamer TV, but he's starting his own Survivor YouTube channel. How's it going, buddy?
It's going pretty good. Assessment, I'm probably gonna do a power ranking, and overall my opinions on Survivor Kaoh Rong, I guess I'm pretty positive to neutral about the season. It's actually my most recent rewatched season. I really have no idea why that is.
Thank you, Skylander, for all the amazing work you've been doing on my thumbnails. You've been doing an amazing job with that. And it really helps me out too, because I've been making my daily videos. It's hard to find time to make thumbnails as well. I'm going to leave a link down in the description to both your channels, so you guys go check it out and go support Skylander and Survivant. All right. We're starting the season off strong. We got Brains versus Brawn versus Beauty. We're bringing that twist back for this season. How do you think about that twist coming back?
I kind of like it now. I think there's definitely a bit of weird casting choices, especially with like Alicia being on the Brawn tribe. That doesn't make that much sense. It obviously worked for Cagayan. I think Brains versus Brawn versus Beauty was overall a pretty good casting twist for the season.
Survivor Cagayan, it starts with Survivor Philippines with the 3 tribes. They really dive into it with the theme heavy 3 tribes in Survivor Cagayan. And that season, whatever that thing is, HHH. I think the best version of this is actually the very original one when they do it in Cagayan. I don't like it when they do a number 2 version of this and then kind of trying to fit them around the theme instead of casting for the theme first, because obviously we know in Survivor seasons past that doesn't work out too well. Also, on a rewatch of the season, I kind of forgot about the crazy insight they give it.
Like, we get the medevacs of Caleb and Neil, and obviously like Joe's medevac is definitely less interesting, but yeah, I mean they really do try to bring home that this is a tough season, which seems like that might be happening for Survivor 41 too. But like, yeah, you can definitely see the conditions be tough. It's super hot out there in Kaoh Rong, and Jeff himself says that like Kaoh Rong was one of his actually least favorite places to film just because of how tough the conditions were there.
And you really get, we'll dive into that a little bit later, but episode 4 really does not feel like a strategy game of Survivor. This is really about surviving. Feels very different, but I like that episode. We'll dive into that a little later. This is the first time in Survivor history that seasons are filmed and aired out of order, and that's because of Survivor Second Chance happens season before. And you get a sense that Survivor's in the middle of shifting tones and shifting eras, as this is the last season, as I like to call the Renaissance era of Survivor, moving into the modern era. It almost feels like this season is in the wrong spot for me. We have Worlds Apart happen, then we have Second Chance happen right after that, where this is like voting blocks, intense strategy. We move a little bit forward into the modern era of Survivor with Millennials versus Gen X. In the middle of those two, we have Survivor Kaoh Rong. It feels out of place for me.
I was actually gonna say that. For me, I have no idea, like I kind of know why, but it's kind of a weird thing. I always felt Kaoh Rong would have fit like as like the 26th season, like it doesn't feel like a season from the 30s in my opinion. No. Again, I don't really know why whenever I'm watching, like, this feels like a season that like would have landed somewhere like season 26, 27, not 32. And it might just because of how production did things. 32 was actually filmed before 31, and because everyone just was really excited to see 31, they just pushed that one before Kaoh Rong. I mean, the cast was probably pretty pissed off about that, knowing that their season was going to get pushed back. It really just makes this season feel kind of out of place. And even if it was like in the regular position it should have been in, even if like Survivor 31 was Kaoh Rong and 32 was Cambodia, I still think it probably would have felt out of place. I just feel like the season feels like a more middle schooler season than like a new school season.
And then we get some weird twists this season. It's not just the medevacs, but the season really goes out of their way to feel different, and that's kind of why it's the end of the Renaissance and the beginning of the modern era of Survivor. I saw someone in the comments of one of my recent videos saying that they see Survivor Kaoh Rong as a modern era season. I'm kind of against that because it's not in the Fiji era, and I kind of like having the modern era strictly in Fiji, but I can see the point of why this should be a modern era season as well. We have the return of the super idol with a kind of new twist. The second time ever we're gonna have the extra vote, the crazy hard season with the 3 medevacs and swaps going from 3 to 2 tribes, and the juror removal. Like, so many weird things Survivor's trying again this season, which is again the advantage era of Survivor.
Juror removal is probably my least favorite twist ever. I really don't like that. Like, that's the one thing that should always be there in Survivor. If you give it on the merge, you should have, you know, the ability to give a say in why that person should win. And the thing is, Neil was actually there the entire time, the entire merge, and he doesn't get a vote. I just really don't like that twist that much, really.
Yeah, and I guess we'll touch on this a little briefly as well. What do you think about the super idol bringing 2 idols together and it becomes the more powerful version?
I will say, out of all the super idols, so what, the 28 super idol, the 13 and the 12 super idol, this is probably my favorite super idol, because like you at least have to have some sort of social agency within the game because you have to have two idols and make them into one, you know?
Yeah.
So at least there's that. But at the end of the day, I really just don't like super idols. And for like what, the third time in a row, the super idol never gets played again.
It's too powerful.
I know. I don't know why. Every single time. 13, it doesn't get played. 12, it doesn't get played. In Cagayan, it doesn't get played. And this season, it should have gotten played, but it doesn't because Ty was there. I don't know why they gave it to him. They should have given it to the person that was way more, you know, aligned with them. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, it doesn't get played again. Once again, the super idol just goes to waste. It would have been a fun moment if it did get played, and even though it doesn't get played, it's still like a fun moment, like seeing Ty just say no. But again, like it doesn't really matter all that much to the season because it never gets played.
And then lastly, I wanted to touch on a little bit before we go episode by episode. We have the extra vote here, and it's a really unique reward challenge that takes place for this extra vote. How this worked was you got to pick the reward you wanted to go for, and it was you could pick between going for letters from home, or you could play for a plate of food and a beer, or you could play for an advantage in the form of an extra vote.
Yeah, and when I saw it, I thought it was actually pretty interesting how like you can choose what you get. If I was out there, I'd probably choose, you know, extra vote or whatever. I think it's pretty interesting, and I'm actually kind of surprised at how little that's been used because I feel like production would have really liked a twist like that. I'm surprised it's only been used like what, two, three times. So I mean, I like it personally. I think it's.
Now let's start off day by day. We're at the pre-swap. We're starting the season out. Really, like any other of these 3 tribe seasons, we have one tribe struggle for a majority of this pre-swap, and for this one we have the Brawn tribe.
Which Brawn's gonna be. It's Brawn.
I know, that's when you're first looking at that, it's like what the Brawn tribe? The Brawn tribe ends up losing 3 people out of 5 people that leave the game in this pre-swap era. Obviously, one not being voted out because of Caleb.
I mean, yeah, we lose like 3 of them. We lose Darnell, Jennifer, Alicia, and I will say the 3 people that get voted out on Brawn, I don't know why they're on Brawn. I mean, like Darnell now, he's if you guys like actually like follow Darnell like on Instagram, so he's like really like buff and strong now. But like Darnell in 32 was like just kind of like a scrawny dude. It's kind of weird like how he got placed on Brawn. Again, it's because they were working with they got the cast first and, you know, made the twist later on. Yeah. But I think like watching Brawn like fall apart is really interesting. Also, like stuff that like isn't like too comfortable, like is how Jason and Scott just kind of bully Alicia like the entire time they're there. That's kind of like that's not the like best thing to watch. But I mean, seeing Darnell get voted off first was pretty interesting to me. I mean, I don't think he really helped himself, especially within the challenges and stuff, because like he wasn't going to go home, I don't think, if it wasn't for his performance in the challenge where he actually like loses like his scuba mask or something like that. Yeah, that's like really funny, and it just comes about into the butt, and he's the first person voted off the season.
Yep, and then we get the early works of what we're going to see with the villains of Scott and Kyle this season, and Jason this season, and I really don't like this. This is like villains of Survivor who are not like, ooh, I'm a strategic mastermind, like roll my mustache kind of villain. These are just bad people. Like they're not acting nice this season. Like it's different between being a bad person and being a villain on Survivor. I always want to point that out. And I think these guys don't have any strategic gameplays really in a villain kind of way like that. Like they're not playing the game as a villain. They're just playing as bad people. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, like it's really like just frustrating to watch him just kind of like bully Alicia and stuff like that. Even though Sydney's left, and you can tell that Sydney isn't really into it either that much, and they're really just mean throughout this season. And it is very satisfying to see Ty just, you know, when Scott does get voted out, to see him not play his idol for him. But it's kind of uncomfortable to watch them in this early like pre-merge.
Yep. Okay. And do you want to start talking about episode 4 of the season? Probably the craziest episode the entire season.
I mean, yeah, again, like what? There's like the Caleb medevac, and like that's so crazy. Apparently, like the medical has said like if Caleb like wasn't as buff as he was, he actually probably would have died. That's actually like insane how close Caleb came to passing away in the season. Luckily, he didn't, obviously, and it's just so crazy to see like this is like when Survivor really breaks the
fourth wall.
Like you see like all production, just come out and just like try to help Caleb. Like really, Jeff says like anyone, if you can help, come help. And you just see like all the production members like out on the challenge. Like this is really like Survivor breaking the fourth wall, and it's just really crazy to see that.
Yeah, I remember rewatching this episode like right after it first aired. Normally I don't do that. I'll watch the episode once, kind of digest it, and maybe go back to it a little bit later. But right when this episode finished, I was like, we gotta run this shit back. We're gonna watch this again and see how it worked. I thought it was so crazy seeing the behind the scenes stuff. Everyone breaking the fourth wall. You can see the cameras. You can Jeff yells out, anyone who's here helping out, camera staff, anything, you're now emergency personnel. Let's get fans, like umbrellas, anything you want. And I thought it was crazy too. You see like the other castaways almost helping out the castaways who are more dehydrated, more in heat stroke. And you don't have, because they don't have enough doctors for everyone. The whole thing is just so crazy to watch. I just watched that moment actually seconds before we started this podcast to get me hyped up to do this, because it's such a dramatic moment. And Caleb kind of overshadows everything here, of course, because it's the most dangerous one. But we also have Sydney here in really, really rough shape. We have Debbie in rough shape as well, which we haven't even touched on Debbie yet in this whole podcast. The whole thing is so crazy. And so from a episode of TV, from an entertainment perspective, this is crazy. And it was crazy to watch, and it was great television. But from a Survivor, strategic, the social political strategy game that we all know and love, I think it actually kind of hurts the episode. I don't mind too much because it's such a game-changing kind of thing. But we also go to tribal council this episode. There's still strategy that needs to take place. And this reminds me a lot of the family visit in Survivor Winners at War, where it takes up so much of the screen time that we lose out on normal Survivor that we need to see to understand the gameplay. And just like the one in Winners at War with the family visit, I'm okay with it happening once because this is such a game-changing kind of thing, Caleb the game changer. But it's not something I want to see every single season. I mean,
definitely, like Caleb Reynolds, the game changer, obviously, right? Personally, like again, like they just really wanted Caleb back on this, so just that's why he was on there. I mean, I guess you can call him game changing because he almost died, game changer. I mean, but it's also crazy that like we could have potentially gotten 3 medevacs in one episode. I mean, Sydney was apparently like actually like really close, like to being medevac. I've heard like she was in rough condition. Deb was in pretty rough condition, even though like she probably doesn't get medevac. It's also crazy that like she knows she's in heat stroke or whatever because she's like the female coach. I don't know. I mean, it's very crazy. But again, like it is that thing where like, it's pretty crazy. And it's pretty interesting, but it also just takes up a lot of screen time as well. But like, I get it. Like if it only happens once or twice, like I'm cool with it, because it is just such a big part of the season.
100%. And then we get to our swap happening after this. We finally lose Alicia, whatever. The bullying finally ends. She gets sent home. She gets like a pretty good underdog arc for the first parts of the season, which is kind of sad to see her go. But the bullying finally gets ended, and the swap happens. And the only bullet point I have here for our swap is we get to see the early developments of the Scott and Ty relationship, which is just such a bizarre and weird relationship. And it becomes a big plot point throughout the entire merge as, Ty's a flipper going back and forth. Is Ty going to use the super idol? And that's really the main point I have for the swap, as that is a big plot line throughout the entire game. What are your thoughts on the swap and the tribes?
I mean, besides that, like you had like the early, Ty and Scott and whatever Jason relationship, like I think it's actually kind of boring. Like, I mean, we 100%. Do get the Peter vote. I think the peak of this, like, post-swap is the Peter blind side. I thought that was pretty cool. Like how Aubrey or whatever scratches out Julie's name or whatever and puts Peter. And, like, strategically, that was not good for Aubrey to do at all. Yeah. But, like, I think that is pretty interesting where, like, Jeff pauses and just, like, sick person without Peter. It's pretty interesting to see Peter's downfall. I think, like, Peter's very arrogant and stuff like that. But I actually liked watching Peter because he's a villain, not in a way like Scott and Jason. Like, he's a villain, not because he's a jerk or anything, just because, like, he really overestimates himself the entire game, like, openly, like, in tribal council, like, trying to get people to do what he wanted to do. And also, he looks like Obama, so, like,
yeah, he's Obama. It's so funny. That's literally the only bullet point I have is Scott's and Ty's relationship. Pretty boring part of the season. And then we finally get to the merge. Just want to point out, guys, we're at the merge. We're halfway through the season. Michele hasn't gone to tribal council yet.
No.
We really give me your brief little thoughts on Michele for the first half of this season.
So I think if Michele actually goes to any tribal in the pre-merge, pro-swap, whatever, I think she's actually the first person voted out of the tribe. We know she's the first person voted out of Beauty.
Yeah.
I think Nick and Julia have both confirmed that. And I think she is actually voted out too on the new Brains too. I mean, what? So the tribe that she's on after that is her, Sydney, Jason, Debbie, Nick, and Neil, I think. So like, yeah, I think she's voted out on that tribe too. I really do think that if Michele goes to any tribal in the pre-merge, she gets voted out, which is not a good thing at all for her game. But yeah, like what, we're on day 19. She hasn't gone to tribal. I think the first time she goes to tribal is day like 22. So it's just so crazy that like the winner of this season doesn't go to tribal for like half the games. It's crazy.
Yeah, we'll get back into the Aubrey Michele debate a little later. But so we start the season off, and again, an unprecedented for Survivor. We got the doctor coming in, just doing like a daily checkup with everyone. And we see it on screen because there's so many gross infections going on.
Oh my god, it's so weird.
It's like, why? Also, don't show this on TV. Like, this is grossing me out. I don't want to see all the pus and the gross infections that are going on. And it's, I don't know, again, Survivor loves breaking the fourth wall this season, but they're openly discussing people needing antibiotics. And normally, like, I guess if they need antibiotics, they're going to give it to them. But of course they are. But they don't usually discuss, okay, on the screen, you're going to get antibiotics, you need this, you need that. Because they kind of like to try and hide that from us. But it feels weird this season how they're so open about all the injuries that are going on.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like this was like kind of the theme of the season, that like people just weren't having a good time out there. Yeah. So like, I think they just really wanted to drive home like, hey, you're going to get antibiotics. Like, how fun is that, right? Like, I mean, it's really weird to watch. And then we also get Neil medically evacuated and doesn't give his idol to Aubrey, which is like really weird. Yeah. He wanted to keep it as a souvenir, which kind of a, not nice thing. Yeah. Like why'd you do that? And like Neil like was also like really thought he was gonna like come back from this, like at Ponderosa, like, oh yeah, I'll come back from this 100%. I don't know, but yeah, we get him medevac. Obviously he loves the game, so it's kind of hard to see him go out. But like, I mean, if Neil doesn't get medevac, I do think Aubrey probably goes home. So it's kind of like a you get some, you win some, you lose some. But yeah, if Neil doesn't get medevac here, Aubrey probably goes home, which isn't a good thing. So I'm kind of okay with it. I was never really in love with like Neil this entire season, so it was just kind of like a mediocre character.
You're telling me you don't like our ice cream entrepreneur?
Yeah, it's such a weird title, the ice cream entrepreneur.
Yeah,
like, it's such a weird title.
My big thing about this is I just feel so bad for Neil. Yeah, going home, getting evacuated. You're a huge fan of Survivor, fine, but guess what? You at least make the jury amazing. He's stuck on Ponderosa for 20 days just to be gone the very
like day 38, right? It's like day 38. You've been the first member of the jury. You're there the entire game.
When you're the first person on the jury, you want to go home. Like, you're done. You're done with the vacation. Yeah. So feel bad for Neil. Let's get Neil on a second chance ballot. Let's do it.
Oh yeah, 100%. He needs to win. He needs to win. The ice cream entrepreneur. Give him $1 million so he can make his ice cream shop or whatever.
Next we have the Nick blindside that takes place, and all I have here is like his ego is just getting way too big at this point.
Yeah.
Just big shout out here though for him being a personal trainer. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go.
That. I'm a personal trainer.
First tribal he went to. Yeah. It was also his last tribal, which is pretty interesting. But like, he actually like openly admits like in this like exit interview, like, oh yeah, I was getting too cocky. Like, he's actually like aware of it too, which is like kind of weird.
And then we've only briefly touched on Debbie here. Give me a sentence to describe Debbie.
She's the female coach. Like, that's my sentence.
Yeah, I think ever since Survivor Token Chains, Survivor has been trying to chase the amazing character that was Coach, and they're never able to recreate that again.
Because Phillip. That's how amazing Coach is. Like, you just can't recreate him.
Yeah, and no, even if Coach comes back, I don't think we're ever gonna get the same Coach again, right?
He's a different Coach like every single time he plays. Really. Like,
yeah, he chooses who he wants to be, and Yeah, it's weird. But yeah, the fun thing about Debbie here is we don't really know what to expect. I kind of wish, Debbie wasn't a game changer, but whatever.
Yeah.
We get Debbie the chemist, we get Debbie the personal trainer, we get Debbie the technical,
like part-time model or something like that.
Yeah.
I think like the editors really looks like wanted to troll like Debbie or whatever, because like they made her like job title different like almost every single time she was on screen.
Yeah,
she's done so many things.
Idled Out made a video on this, and it was super funny. I didn't pick up on that the first time, so shout out you, Idled Out, great video.
Yeah.
And then I have here Scott, Kyle, and Scott and Jason become a really like bad villains here, and again, like I pointed out earlier, villains in the sense that they're just dicks and not Survivor villains. Like they're dumping out the fire, taking the fires out, and just being like, our game's done.
Screw you guys. Like, yeah, it's just not fun to watch. It's really satisfying to see, Scott finally, get what was coming to him when Ty it's just a really satisfying moment where like Scott like looks over at Ty, like you can see like he's so confident, he's so like, oh yeah, you guys voted me on, and then like Ty's just no. He's like, wow, and it's just like, and then like he has to bend over like to get to leave because he's so tall.
Yeah,
they have to bend over like the little statue or whatever because he's so tall. And yeah, like I mean, it was so great to finally see him get voted out.
Yeah, and then I have here with the Julia vote out, the Julia blindside. I think that's like Michelle's biggest and best strategic move of the game. Can you agree with that?
I mean, yeah, but like even with that, like it's still like I think like just like a decent like move like end of the day. Like it's not like that big, I don't think. Like I do think it's probably Michelle's best move to get her out, but it just at the end of the day, like I still just don't think it's like that impressive in like all reality.
At least like she needs to have the self-awareness to be aware of that. Like if she sticks with Julia and wants to go like with her, she's gonna be the next one gone anyway. Yeah. She really needs to jump ship, and
it's just so obvious that that's the right move. That it's kind of just like okay, like cool, you know what I'm saying?
I agree. And then we have the last medevac with Joe, the worst medevac of the season. This one's just boring.
He eats himself to death. Like,
you're 71 years old. You make it to day 34 of Survivor. We don't really know who you are in this last and little bit, and you're gone.
It's just kind of like underwhelming, like like whatever. But like the thing, if Joe stays in the game, I think Aubrey probably wins the season. Though that's like the thing that like really, and I'll talk about it when we get to Michele. Actually, well, I'll save Joe for later because I have a lot of things to say about that one.
Okay. And then we have the final four immunity challenge. The classic Fitz Tower.
Yep. Michele kicks it.
Yeah, ooh. Sydney gets voted out with Michele winning the immunity, and then she turns around and kicks the tower over. The great move. Does the same thing in Winners at War. I just want to give you Survivor puzzle makers on Etsy, want to help us out over here and send us one of those Fitz Towers. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's actually like I think someone did a video about it where like the reason why it's so hard is because like on the bottom layer there's only one possible combination to actually make the tower, which is why like Michele actually probably the best chance of winning.
Cool to see something like this happen once, I guess, but especially in Neil's specific case, it just doesn't matter.
Which it would have been like 3-4, which would have made it more interesting.
Yeah,
Neil was like, it's like, oh, you're like a scared little cat, like something. I forgot what he said. It wasn't that good, whatever he said, but like you probably like if he was actually there, it probably would.
Yeah, you want to be a badass bitch, but instead you were whatever.
Like a scared little kitty or something like that. I don't know.
We got Ty, Aubrey, and Michele. Run them down for me.
I mean, look, I don't know why people like Michele. I'm gonna be. I don't get the love for her. I don't get why like so much of the jury like loved her so much. Like I don't get it. Like I don't know why Scott and Jason like just really like. She did nothing for like half of the game. She did nothing for half the game. She never went to a tribal council until like day 22. And it just like after seeing Aubrey, make good decision after good decision after good decision or whatever, and like make good moves for herself, to see her lose to Michele of all people, it's just so like it just really puts a damper on the season for me, honestly.
See, I disagree with you.
Really?
Yeah, I like Michele, great Survivor player here. And when I first saw this season, back whenever it was, 2016, I completely agreed with you. I thought, Aubrey's robbed. Aubrey should have won the season, best player. Why did Michele win this game? And the issue is, I think Michele is one up. Cerie's up there. A few other people. Michelle's up there for one of the best social players in Survivor history. And the issue is with a social player like this, is it doesn't make for compelling television, right? You don't get those strategic moves, those crazy moves. And I mean, she does have a little bit of the physical game with winning the Fitch Tower in the end. But when you have the amazing social game like Michele does, she made connections with every single person. Survivor has slowly been moving away from, and instead of showing us like the interpersonal connections, they just show us strategy, game bots. And because of that, we don't see Michele's gameplay, right?
Yeah.
And she was able to recreate it and make Final Tribal Council again and Winners at War. I think really boosts her game for me.
Finalists. Woo. Like, I mean, the thing is though, like, I think Aubrey had like a pretty decent social game too, plus like a really great strategic game, and that just kind of puts her over the edge for me. Like, yeah, Michele was able to make these bonds and stuff. Like I just like she didn't do that much besides it. Like, I think Aubrey had some pretty good bonds out there too with people, and she also had this really good strategic game to go along with it. And I don't know. After seeing, like, the thing is, like, maybe if they like showed more of Michele, I wouldn't be okay with it. But because like of the edit and how they didn't show Michele a lot, it just kind of makes the season feel weird. Yeah. You know, having like Michele, who like was there, but like you don't see a lot of her, and her winning the game is just so weird. Like, I would have been so much more okay with it if they just showed us more of Michele.
And that's kind of where I do agree with you. I really like Michele as a winner, and I think her game is really, really good and underrated. Probably properly rated now, but at the time it was underrated. But the only issue is, even though her game is a really good win, I think because we don't see most of it and we don't really get to see the social game, it makes the season as a whole feel really lackluster and weird in the end. We see Aubrey, and Aubrey gets the winner's edit. Aubrey should have won the season. That's what you think going into it. And because of that, even though I like Michele and I like Michele's win, I think the season hurts having not a Michele edit, right? Like,
like the season probably would have ranked better if they just showed more of the win. It's kind of like with Samoa, where like a lot of people say Samoa's really good. I disagree, because the winner of this season gets like 4 confessionals. Now, obviously, Michele gets more confessionals here, but just it's still like you can have like